Um, Really nice to meet you. Finally,
I meet you too.
it's been a fan of your stuff, and ever since the first film, really, and some of the stuff you've written before that. So it's been 7 years between the two films. Just want to talk about the process of this second one coming along. What are the origins of the sort of the sequel? After the sort of the huge success of that first film, which was fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. Um, in the I do loads and loads of research on everything I do. I mean, tons. And in the process of researching Den One, the people I met, places I went, on the criminal side, law enforcement side, everything, I came across so much material, almost material for like 3 or 4 or 5 seasons of a crime show. But we knew we were in the feature world, so it's almost like I mean, I had the 3, 4, 5 movies really mapped out really after researching Den One because all these different heists took place in different parts of the world and different dynamics and people involved. And so we knew we wanted to build a franchise. That's why Den One ended the way it did. That's why Den Two's ended the way it did. Den Three has been greenlit. So we've been lucky enough to be able to now build a franchise. So that was by design, which is great. I'm very thankful that we've been able to do that. So I knew from ahead of time that we were going to be evolving into, see the characters evolve, and then go into increasingly, different and more dynamic and increasingly interesting and volatile and dangerous worlds, and in different heists and settings. And we'll do that again with Den Three.
That's fantastic. So obviously this one's set in Nice. Been very lucky enough to visit that part of the world quite a lot. So you say you immerse yourself into that kind of the environment, both in terms of story and the setting. Do you
Yep,
find did you visit that area? Did you kind of immerse yourself in the culture of that area to come up with the story, or how did it go about?
exactly that. So I go. I don't write anything until I have an idea of what I want to do, and then I go into the worlds. I literally go physically to the places. I meet physically with the people, but for like not for like a few days, for like months. So I was in Belgium quite a bit. I was in Lyon, France. I was in the south of France in Nice. I was in Belgrade, and met again all the criminals, all the cops. Went to the place where the heist took place with the investigating and officers, and checked everything out. Saw everything went down for real, and basically everything that's in both films, and will continue to in the third one. It's just sort of an amalgamation, of all the different heists and all the different techniques used and technology used, and it's all authentic, real world stuff. And when I shoot, I always have my technical advisors with me. I've got guys representing the law enforcement there, guys representing the thieves there. We all work together to ensure everything is done correctly. We really stick to really the specific details of how things are actually done, which I find endlessly fascinating. And we kind of build from there, and we're doing the same thing with three. And that's kind of the process, but it's a pretty labor intensive process, but I love it. It's really cool to meet the actual people, and all the characters are based on real people that I meet. So when we're casting people that look like them. I literally have photographs of, write a character. I kind of slightly change the name from an actual person. When I go to casting, I show the casting director, this is what they look like, and we go find that person. So it's all very, I'm just basically, it's all inspired from the real world.
Sure. And talking about inspiration, obviously with the first one, I rewatched that again this week because it's been a little while since I saw it. Probably hadn't seen it since it came out. Obviously, I was getting, being a big sort of fan of Michael Mann's work. Of Heat obviously is the one I would look to for the first film. The
Of
second one's
course.
got the second one's got a very different feel.
Yeah.
And I instantly thought of Ronin when I saw it. And you've worked with Frankenheimer, is that right?
I did. I had the pleasure of the honor of working with him. At the end of his career, before he passed away, unfortunately. We're working on a thing at Icon Mel Gibson's company called Skeleton Coast. And I'm a huge fan of Ronan, and was huge fan of him as a filmmaker. He's kind of a mentor of mine. It was very, very cool to work with him for the 6, 7 months that I did. Something it never got made, but we developed something together. Um, and yeah, I mean, he's a huge influence, as is Michael Mann. And I just but then you obviously develop your own kind of style, um, and for me, it's just I try to just do as much again research as possible into the reality of things, the physical reality, the technical reality, the emotional reality, of these people, and um, a lot of the thing about Heat, for example, and Heat's an extraordinary movie. I mean, amazing. But when I saw Heat for the first time, being from LA, I realized that it was a very stylized version of the criminal underworld of LA. The things they wore, the restaurants they went to, the cars they drove. That's not the world of crime in LA. It's a very beautiful, interesting world. It's felt very authentic, but it actually wasn't. And so at Den One, I wanted to sort of show the world of crime and cops that I knew from LA very well, and that was a very accurate representation of what it actually is. And in Den Two, I sort of did the same thing with the whole European criminal underworld vibe and how these thieves operate, and so that was a very accurate representation of that world.
Sure. And the story went in a direction I really didn't expect it to. I mean, there's the two characters, the Big Nick, which is he's an amazing character, and this the polar opposite to him, but they're obviously very similar with Donnie.
Mhm.
There's this kind of, not to spoil it, it's kind of in some of the synopses I've read. They kind of team up in this film, and that's just not a direction I went to go. Was that the intention of sort of taking audiences to a place where, maybe it wasn't as expected to go to?
For sure. I just want the characters to continually evolve and put them in different, awkward, interesting positions and see how they react to it. And for Big Nick to be in Europe, he's never been there. He's as American as you can be, and he's very provincial and local in that sense, right? To see him operating in Europe and with European cops, and then to see Donnie as a fully realized man and as a fully realized gangster, and his, in the first one he was bullshitting people. Now he's him, and what does that look like? And then what would that look like with them together? Just fun to play with that stuff, and knowing who the actors are makes it a lot easier for me, and I work with them both very, very closely. And it makes the process really enjoyable, and gives you sort of a freedom to explore things because everyone knows each, we know the voice and the character so well, and it's like sort of hanging out with an old friend again, so it makes the process very, very enjoyable.
And how did you find there's obviously an ensemble cast here, which are very different from the first film. How did you go about finding these wonderful actors that support those two in the two different teams that come together?
Well, again, so the characters are based on real people that I've met,
Yeah.
and I know I've often photographed these people, and then I sort of show the producers and the casting directors, this is the type of person I want for this role. They look like this. There's the vibe, and we can just go out and find them. And then the casting directors, some people, a lot of actors I was familiar with, like Fortunato Sterlino and Salvatore Esposito from Gomorrah, and Adriano Schermaller from 000, and Avina Mod from Snabba Cash. I was familiar with these actors, Nazmi Arala from Undercover. And so I thought that they fit the mold of that character I was writing very closely. So we're able to get them, and the ones that I became familiar with the casting process was just through a laborious casting process, just finding the right people that fit the energy of the people the characters are based on. And the cast was amazing. They're all wonderful actors. They were amazing to work with. We all had a great time together. So it was a great experience.
And let's talk about Gerard Butler himself. You've worked with him quite a lot in your career through various things. Obviously, the first film. You've written up a couple of other things with him. What does he bring to the table? I mean, he's an amazing actor, we know that. But as a producer, what does he bring to the table for these films?
Just just being there, like as the writer, right? You are, as the writer, you're there from the very, 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 very beginning of the process, and as a director, you're there till the very, very, very end. So when you're there for the entirety of everything. You're the one person that's all the way through from the very, very beginning to the bitter end. And because of our relationship, he's there with me. So it's it's just an amazing, wonderful working relationship. We're also very good friends. We've become very good friends over the years, but we also have a whole professional. We're able to sort of be both professionals together and buddies. So, and the friendship thing works really well with creatively, right? With the character, and he really trusts me. And Nick is kind of a blend of myself and him, and we're kind of so it's like when we hang out, not for work, just dicking around. We'll often have moments like, oh, dude, we got to do that. Like the one scene that got cut out of the movie that is an outtake, unfortunately, my favorite scene, but we couldn't fit it in there was when Donnie and Nick get trapped in a rent-a-car It's on my Instagram. I'm not sure it'll be on the DVD release, and you can see it on my Instagram. We actually released it. I think it might be on YouTube, but that really happened to Jerry and I. We went on a working road trip in Scotland, and we got locked into a rent-a-car, couldn't get out, and that was the scene of the movie. I mean, little things like that happen. The movie's littered with those little moments where things actually happen to us, that we just decided to put in there. Um, Life imitating art, art imitating life, and all those things. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. I interviewed him once. He's a character, and I can see why his infectious
Yeah.
personality would develop, those kind of situations. It's great. So, just want to talk about the sort of the kind of landscape of the film. I mean, it's getting a streaming release over here. It's going straight to Prime Video. It's been a huge hit in the States I think on Netflix at the moment. How do you feel about the landscape of the way things are going in terms of streaming and that sort of thing with these particular type of movies? Because these are the films I like to watch both theatrically if I get the opportunity to, which I saw the first film that way, and at home late on a Friday night. So kind of what are your thoughts on that for this
I mean,
kind of
look,
films?
yeah, look, we're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to figure out, like, do you go to the theater or not? How long are you in the theater for? Like, how quick can you go to? It's just all a new math, and it's on to on the behalf of the marketers and the distributors. It's hard to figure out. It is. Like, how much do you spend on marketing and how long are you in the theaters for and all that. But I grew up going to movie theaters. I love movie theaters. They're like my church. So I think if you're in the theater, there's got to be a reason to go now. There's a certain scope. This was new IP, but now that we're building a franchise, that's good because there's familiarity, so people look forward to it. So that's worked in our favor, which is great. But it has to have a certain size, like a certain world immersive factor, right? Where you're seeing something you can't see on a smaller screen, right? And I think, but look, I like all of us, I stream shit all the time, and I love it, right? So I mean, as you said it perfectly, I love both. Do I want to see everything in the theater? No, but certain things, absolutely. Be a shame. But I think movie palaces will survive to some degree for sure. I think the collective experience of a theater is something very, very unique. I actually did interesting thing. I did one of the most interesting things I did in film school back in the day was we studied audiences, and the end result was that if you take 100 people watching a movie, the 10% with the highest IQ, they will react to something the quickest and the most appropriately. And they will actually guide the audience so that their collective intelligence is actually higher when you watch something in a group. And you may be a second or two late, but then you'll understand, oh, I'm supposed to laugh or be scared or whatever. They will kind of guide you through it. And that experience is that community experience is wonderful. And now with technology, it's happens less and less. I think it's why people love going to football matches and sports games, because that's a collective experience. And movies also provide that, like going to the theater used to, right? So there's a magic in that I think is important to maintain, right? And seeing something so big like that that's why it's truly large in a life. When it's on your little screen, it becomes much of a personal, right, quiet, personal journey and experience. But just like you, I love both.
Absolutely. And we're talking about next. So is number three next for you, or have you got something else you're going to pursue first?
I'm doing another thing first, and then I'll do it right after. We'll probably be shooting it mid to late next year. But I'm doing another thing called Wolf Country just prior to that.
Okay. Can you tell us anything about that, or not really?
Spy thriller, sort of. Yeah. Very grounded, gritty spy thriller.
Okay, lovely stuff.
Yeah.
So we haven't got to wait another 7 years for the next one, is what I'm asking,
No,
probably.
no. That was a comedy of just everything that wrong could happen did, from actor to strikes to COVID to actors injuries to their knees to the war in Ukraine because we were going to shoot in Belgrade, and then the war hit, and then all the refugees from the war went to Belgrade. There was nowhere to house the crew, and I mean, just one thing after the other. And it felt cursed for a minute, but then we're finally able to do it, thank God. But no, there will not be 7 years in between the two now. No, no.
And have you got a setting in mind yet? Because obviously you seem to be
Oh yeah,
traveling the world, but yeah, you obviously know
it's
where
all
you're going.
it's all outlined. done the research. Yeah, it's going to be in a new continent, new kinds of heists. It's going to be sort of geopolitical. It's going to be a really new criminal underworld. Going to introduce a few new characters. Some old characters will come back. It's going to be really cool.
Lovely stuff. I look forward to seeing it, as I do with all of your films. So thanks for the
Thank you, sir.
time, and I'll let you get
Pleasure.
off to
Nice to meet you.
spring break, and I'll
Thank you,
do the
sir.
same. Thanks
Right on.
very much.
Cheers. Have a good one. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.